Tonight, luck finally comes the way of 5 victims of the ill-fated Abuja-Kaduna-bound train as they regain freedom after about 127 days in captivity. We've given the military full freedom to fight against terror in the country. The president reassures the international community as he receives letter of credence from Mexico and Canadian envoys. Travelers lament as irate youths in Edo State continue their blockade of the Benin-Sapele highway as they protest poor state of the road for a second day.
On business news tonight, federal government says about 211,000 persons across the southwest region have benefited from the MSME survival scheme since inception following the outbreak of COVID-19.
And on sports news tonight, Nigeria's Taiwo Laidi wins silver in women's 76 kg weightlifting event at the Commonwealth Games to take Nigeria's medal haul to 5.
And from Abuja, NDLEA in a covert operation busts 2 secret laboratories in Lagos and Anambra, discovers dangerous drugs called methamphetamine in huge quantities.
International news from London. Reaction has been coming in across the world to the news that the US has killed the head of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan.
We begin tonight with some news of relief coming for 5 more passengers who were kidnapped by terrorists during the attack on a Kaduna-bound train on March 28th following their release from captivity today. The security agencies and the federal government are yet to confirm the development, but a member of the negotiating team, Tukuru Mamu, gave the names of the 5 released hostages as Mustafa Umar Imam, who is a professor of medical biochemistry at the Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital, Sokoto, Akibu Lawal, Abubakar Ahmed Rufai, Mukhtar Shuaibu, and Sidi Aminu Sharif. This brings the number of those freed so far by the terrorists to 37, leaving 35 other kidnapped persons in their captivity.
They are in bad shape because you can imagine this is rainy season. Anybody that was subjected in this kind of environment in the forest that you would travel for as long as 100 kilometers, you can imagine how the situation will be. And as you can confirm from the interview of one of the abductees, who is a medical doctor, he expressed a very disturbing situation about the condition of most of them that are there, and even call on the federal government to act very fast so that their health condition will not deteriorate to a level that can consume their lives. The list of additional 5 today, we have about 34 that are still there in the forest. And the implication of this is that, those of those of family members, for example, that have the means to negotiate and find their way, will naturally, do that and then secure the release of their loved ones. But the implication is that, the people that are there now, I can confirm to you more than 80% of them, these are people that cannot raise even as small amount as 100,000 naira. So the implication is that the majority of them that are still there, will be left with no hope and in a very uncertain situation, because anything can happen if you can look at the psyche of these abductors.
Meanwhile, one of the victims, Professor Mustafa Umar Imam, who's at the Usman Danfodio University Teaching Hospital, has been speaking on his experience, saying he treated other victims and the terrorists while in captivity.
My experience is really terrible. I mean, you can see I just finished shedding tears of joy when I've been. I mean, I have gone back home and I'm going to be reunited with my family very soon. Now, quite frankly, that is not the experience I've been through in the last 4 months. It's not something I like even my enemy to go through, because I mean there was barely food. I mean, for people to eat, we were hungry for the last three and a half months. I mean, we were quite surprised in the last 2 weeks. We actually, I mean, they started bringing a food stock that we ate, and we were actually okay in the last 2 weeks. But then for the first 3.5 months, we were actually very, very, very hungry. And when I say very hungry, this is an understatement. I mean, there were days that we go, I mean, just eating once. We ate once on certain days. And just imagine there are children that are barely 1 year. I mean, a child that is barely 1 year old and a 90-year-old person feeding once a day. Just do the math. Just do the math. I mean, when you talk about medication, I literally was the medical doctor on camp. I was treating the captives as well as the bandits, or I would say Boko Haram members. There wasn't medication, to be very frank with you. We heard on the radio somebody was claiming that they would bring medication whenever it was needed. There wasn't any medication at the camp. I mean, we could go days. There was a day that a particular lady who had malaria. So malaria, you could treat malaria with 1,000 naira. But this lady literally was going into coma because there wasn't medication for her. I mean, there wasn't medication for her malaria. So the situation is really, really terrible.
Amid concerns over the increasing threat of attacks across the country, security agencies in Lagos are seeking for the cooperation of residents to ensure that bandits and other inimical crimes steer clear of the state. They say that arrangements have been made for adequate deployment of personnel and logistics to withstand all emerging security threats across Lagos.
Police officers in Lagos arriving the Berger End, a boundary between Lagos and Ogun State. Their entry no doubt sends a signal. Private and commercial vehicles and their occupants are subjected to search. Even the dispatch riders operating along the axis are not spared. As they man the highway, some of the passengers make their way into the city in truck carrying livestock. Others walk in with their luggage. Other uncooperating residents are arrested and moved to the command for further questioning.
The Lagos State Police Command is taking that intelligence report very seriously, and the Commissioner of Police in Lagos State, CP Abiodun Alabi, has taken his DPOs and area commanders to task, mandating them to ensure that nothing is left to chance within their respective domains or jurisdiction. So we are fully on top of our game, not just DPOs and area commanders, even tactical commanders, the intelligence officers, everybody is fully on board to make sure that any possible attack does not succeed.
At the Alagbado area, another border town between Lagos and Ogun State, there are no stationed guards. Residents claim patrol teams only move around the area.
We don't have a long, much bush, maybe now forest, thank you very much. Forest like that, where we say people can hide from maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I believe it cannot work. I believe that.
It's not only government can handle all these things. We supposed to be our security by ourselves.
The NSCDC commandant in Lagos adds that security arrangements has been made to fortify the city.
Indeed, this is a trying period in Nigeria. I know that there has been issue of this threat, but as far as Lagos is concerned, the security threat in Lagos, all the security agencies in synergy, we are working together to bring it to nothing. Lagosians should be rest assured that the threat is just of newspaper. We are well prepared and we are in good synergy to calm down all free-ups.
Security, they say, is everyone's business. With claims of preparedness to combat unforeseen situation, residents may need to cooperate with these men to achieve the desired result.
Meanwhile, residents of the nation's capital have continued to lament the state of security in the Federal Capital Territory, demanding urgent action to restore normalcy. While some residents took their grievances to the Popular Unity Fountain today, the primate of the Anglican Church and the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room are asking the president to rejig the nation's security architecture for effective military operations.
While residents of the nation's capital were still coming to terms with the reality of the attack on Kuje Prison, bandits attacked troops of the Presidential Guards Brigade on two different occasions, first in Buari town and then on the Abuja-Kaduna highway by the popular Zuma Rock. The FCT administration was forced to close all schools within the territory, following attacks in communities that border the federal government college, Kwali. This is one of the reasons for this protest by some residents of the Federal Capital Territory, as residents lament the security situation.
We are tensed. Generally, nobody can sleep with the two eyes closed. So there is tension everywhere within the community we live in, within the streets. Everybody, we're just trying to be careful and not to go within our vicinity if possible, because there is tension everywhere. See now,
it becomes very terrible, and they are bold enough to be killing military, police, harassing everyone, and the NSA, the president, is just watching. So I'm feeling that if they start now to address it, it will still be good. I'm happy that people in the House are becoming affected, because as they have come into Abuja, if they refuse to address it, it will affect everybody.
Nevertheless, security operatives have remained on alert at the entry point into the FCT. However, some residents want the federal government to rejig the security architecture.
Some of our priests and bishops who had been kidnapped, when they came out, they told us that even in the taking of the loot called ransom, some uniformed officers whom they saw even in checking points before the event were also seen in the den where they were kept.
President Muhammadu Buhari should wake up to the responsibilities of steering the affairs of the nation in the areas of security and economic restoration, which will rebuild the confidence of citizens by reassuring Nigerians of his ability to continue to govern, or should honorably resign if the challenges are overwhelming for him.
However, the Inspector General of Police is allaying the fears of residents. A statement from the Force's Public Relations Officer, Mr. Olumuyiwa Adejobi, states that additional manpower and assets have been deployed to strategic positions within the FCT and its environs.
In part two, after the break, we'll have more on security across the country. Plus, APC Vice Presidential candidate Kashim Shettima gives the assurance that if elected in 2023, the presidential candidate Asiwaju Bola Tinubu will ensure equity and fairness in governance. That's in a moment. Do join us again. Welcome back. If it has joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Luck finally comes the way of 5 victims of the ill-fated Abuja-Kaduna bound train as they regain freedom after about 127 days in captivity. We've given the military full freedom to fight against terror in the country. The president reassures the international community as he receives a letter of credence from Mexico and Canadian envoys. Travelers and mentors, irate youths in Edo State continue their blockade of the Benin-Sapele Highway as they protest poor state of the road for a second day. And in international news from London, reaction has been coming in from across the world to news that the U.S. has killed the leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan. We continue with security tonight, this time in Taraba State, where the Commissioner of Police, Abimbola Shokoya, says they have arrested 6 persons in connection with the killing of the traditional ruler of Yukuben chiefdom in Takum local government area and his son. The police chief explains some of the measures put in place to end insecurity affecting some parts of Yangtu development area, Takum and Usa local government areas of the state.
On Thursday, 28th July 2022, an information came that the chief of Yukuben, Takum local government area of Taraba State, was missing, and we sent out search party to actually rescue him or bring him back wherever he was. However, on Friday, the 29th of July, the corpse of the chief was discovered in a place called Kota Bush under Usa local government, and presently we have commenced the investigation into that matter, and we are having some suspects that are helping us in the investigation. We have 6 suspects that have been arrested. Investigation is ongoing.
A calm is set to return to Danda Chugui of Just South local government area of Plateau State after the recent attack that claimed the lives of 8 members of a family there, leaving 2 others injured. Meanwhile, there are strong indications that the killings may have been a reprisal action. It was gathered the attack, which took place on the night of Sunday, followed the killing of a Fulani boy whose body was found around the area. The attackers were said to have entered into the compound at about 9 in the evening and began shooting sporadically, killing the victims, 3 adults and 5 children. The reprisal is said to have been anticipated because of the tension caused by the death of the Fulani, but nothing concrete was said to have been done to stop the eventual attack. The president has called for more international collaboration to tackle insecurity and sustain the fight until the challenge is surmounted. President Muhammadu Buhari is of the view that Nigeria has made meaningful progress in the fight against banditry with the support of friendly countries, including Canada and Mexico. He made the assertion when he received letters of credence from the new Canadian High Commissioner to Nigeria, Ambassador James Kingston Christoph, and Ambassador of Mexico to Nigeria, Juan Alfred Miranda Oritz, at the State House.
I urge you to also build friendship and acquaintances in the course of your stay in our country. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the devastating effect of global insecurity, climate change, and the post-coronavirus era has devastated global economies. Nations continue to struggle to recover from these multiple global challenges. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has undermined the progress countries have achieved in tackling food security in the last decade, while the political instability in Libya continues to fuel terrorism in the Sahel, as well as scatter the democratic sustenance in both West and Central African regions. Nigeria is not left out of the equation as we are fighting to rid our country of banditry, kidnapping, harder farmer crisis, and insurgency. We are, however, making meaningful progress with the support of friendly countries like yours to sustain these fights until we overcome these challenges.
President Muhammadu Buhari. Meanwhile, Nigerians have been reacting to the recent statement made by the president about the order given to heads of security agencies to fight banditry across the country. For Dr. Kabir Adamu, the managing director, Beacon Consulting Limited, there has to be an integration of the presidential directive as an administrative tool for the security agencies. This, he says, should be measured by key performance indicators for proper accountability. Dr. Kabir Adamu was guest in our program, Politics Today.
Terrorist bandits that abducted passengers of the Kaduna-bound train wanted 36 of their members out. We know that 10 of those persons were in Kuje, and 10 of those persons were released. Now, initially, they wanted those 10 persons. As part of their demands, there were about 3 demands: the political demand, the financial demand, and the other one that we probably wouldn't know. Now they have one in their hands, which is their members that were in custody. What else do they want? Money. Now they are getting the money and they are releasing the abducted persons. So I think let's keep that conspiracy theory out of the way and face the fact. The fact is that these guys came, freed 10 of their members, 26 more. Still, no, not 26, because some kids were released from other places. So there are still more of their members that they want. And I worry about where those members are. I don't want, this is a public forum, I don't want to mention it, but we know where they are. So that's that for conspiracy theories. With regard to your question, this is not the first time that Mr. President is making this type of statement. And I'm hoping that when the National Security Council meets, he also makes that kind of statement. Luckily, we've seen the Security Council meet in July, I think 3 times, which is the most that in the life of this administration that we've seen that Security Council. What I would hope is that the administrative machinery around Mr. President will pick that statement and turn it into administrative tools. For instance, tasking orders. I don't know what you guys call it in military, but send it out to the military, send it out to the intelligence community, and then to the other law enforcement agencies with key performance indicators for measurement, metrics that would allow that administrative machinery to know where this presidential directive is being implemented. That is the only way that we would know whether this statement is actually a statement that has some gusto behind it.
Let's switch gears now to the Benin-Sapele Warri Road, which has been closed for a second day as motorists were trapped on it by youths of neighboring communities. The motorists have been counting their losses, though. The youths have been lamenting the deplorable state of the road, which has generated concern among residents in the communities in Edo State. They called on the government to speed up action in fixing the road. For 2 days, vehicular movement has been stopped on the road, leaving passengers and travelers stranded. Our correspondent, Osaze Obaze, has more.
It is day 2 of the Sapele Road shutdown. The lads are still at it and won't let go. It continues to take a huge toll on the travelers who want to move interstate, even as well as other commuters.
Election is fast approaching and there's no road. Look at it. Now traveling, I have to park my car somewhere where it's not safe, and I have to look for alternative to move from one place to another. It's so disheartening.
Enters Valentine Aswe, House of Representative aspirant on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. He was first warmly received, and in splits of seconds, the once calm lads became quite irate and not truly receptive anymore. It got a bit feisty and people had to beat a retreat. Away to safety, we catch up with Valentine Aswe. He said he shares in the pain of the protesters.
I want to add my voice to this clarion call by these protesters, because it's not affecting them alone, it's affecting all of us. I'm speaking as an individual and not any political affiliation. And I'm speaking to Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, to please come and hear our cry.
The Edo State government expresses frustration over the role of the federal government in fixing federal roads in the country.
As you know, that road is a federal government road, and we are all aware that the federal government has stated unequivocally that they will no longer refund state governments that go ahead to provide mitigation to those kinds of problems in their state. So if a federal government road passes through your state and is faulty and you spend state resources to fix it, federal government has stated bluntly that they will not refund.
However, things did not escalate further. The youths refused to speak with the press any further. Osazo Obaze, Channels Television News.
To political matters now, the vice presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Kashim Shettima, has given assurance that if elected, his principal, Bola Tinubu, would be just, fair and inclusive, irrespective of tribal, religious and political affiliations. While calling for the rebirth of a new nation, the former Borno State governor commended the southwest part of the country for its religious tolerance, urging other parts of the country to emulate such for peace and development. He was speaking at the one-year memorial for Dr. Emmanuel Abiodun, father of the governor of Ogun State, held at the St. James Anglican Church in Ogun State.
The southwest of Nigeria is a place worthy of emulation by all of us, because it's a bastion of religious tolerance and generosity of spirit. It's a place where people are judged by the content of their character. The governor of Ogun State was born a Muslim. His name was Sahid. President Obasanjo passed in the month of Ramadan. This is the Nigeria of our dreams. This is the Nigeria we need to build on, where people are judged by the content of their character, by their competence, by their abilities, irrespective of differences in our political affiliations, religious persuasions, sectional or tribal background. We need to build a nation, because the hope of the black man rests with the people of this country. And the onus is on us to secure the future of generations yet unborn. I want to assure the congregation that we are going to be just and fair to all Nigerians. We are going to be all inclusive. Usman Dan Podio said, a society can thrive on unbelief, but no society can thrive on injustice. Injustice is something that is abhorrent to all religions. Injustice is something that is opposed by all cultures and traditions. Ours will be an all-encompassing, all-embracing government.
Over in River State, Governor Nyesom Wike continues to play host to key political figures, receiving a former governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, today at his private residence in Port Harcourt. A visit is a third to be undertaken by the former governor in the last 2 weeks. After today's meeting, which also held behind closed doors, the former governor told journalists his coming to Port Harcourt was a brotherly visit which will be repeated frequently. A human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, is challenging Nigerians to demand and fight for the enthronement of a true rule of law to address some of the current challenges in the country. He was speaking in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, during a public lecture on good governance and democracy. He called for the appropriate laws to regulate the nation's economy in order to reflect true federalism.
It was indeed a gathering of leaders of thought, the academia, activists, captains of industry, human rights lawyer, and of course, Professor Wole Soyinka, who moderated the occasion.
The leakages in the system is so much.
They are gathered here over growing concerns about the ongoing challenges in the polity, the economy, insecurity, power generation, with the current democratic experience in focus. They were of the opinion that the country has not been better despite the civil rule.
Most of the quality assets we have in this country, there were things that we inherited from the military. I'm not saying dictatorship is good, but I'm saying that it's our democracy yielding enough dividends for us to say these are the dividends of democracy. We must make democracy work better.
The problem we have is not for lack of idea. The problem we have is not because we don't have the solution or we don't know it. You don't need to go to Egypt or India to look for solution to the power sector. We know what the problem is and we know the solution, but the government at all levels are not willing to find solutions.
If we do not join...
In the light of this and many more, human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, asked Nigerians to fight for the enthronement of a true rule of law to address some of the challenges.
Killings are taking place here. Ogun State is next to Osun State in the southwest with respect to ritual murder. Now, people are using human blood for politics. There are reports every day by the police. They parade the suspect, but they are never prosecuted because we don't have rule of law in Nigeria, sir. We have rule of men. Therefore, let us all rise up to fight for the rule of law for our country.
Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, who moderated the public discourse, however, warned against what he described as the enthronement of dynastic rule through the back door, where governors and the president determine their successors.
Because what these governors are telling us is that after a failure has occupied the seat of government for 8 years, that failure should give us another failure for another 8 years. So those who feel that those governors who went and asked Buhari to give us a successor should also be impeached, can I please see your hands up in the air?
The occasion was rounded off with presentation of awards to some of the dignitaries, which included Professor Wole Soyinka, Femi Falana, for their support and contributions to humanity.
And I toss it over now to Malpe Ogun Yusuf in Abuja. Hi, Malpe. Great to see you.
Hello, Amarachi. It's good to see you as well. Our first story is connected with maintaining law and order in the society, as the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, General Buba Marwa, has been speaking on the recent discovery of 2 laboratories in Lagos and Awka in Anambra State, where the production of illicit drugs was being carried out by drug barons. General Marwa told journalists at a news conference in Abuja today that operatives of the agency were able to arrest 2 suspects, Mr. Chris Nzewi and Paul Ozemenam, following a tip-off and several months of intelligence gathering.
I am pleased to inform the public today that after months of painstaking intelligence gathering, diligent tracking and coordinated offensive action, we recorded a breakthrough on Saturday, July 30th, 2022, when officers and men of the agency successfully busted 2 methamphetamine manufacturing facilities called meth laboratories. The first laboratory, located in Victoria Garden City, VGC Estate of Lagos, is owned by Baron Chris Emeka Nzewi, while the second, in Nise community of Awka South local government area of Anambra State, was owned by Paul Ozemenam. The owners of these 2 illicit meth laboratories were successfully arrested.
Well, staying here in the FCT, over 66 billion naira has been disbursed to over 1.2 million beneficiaries nationwide under the National Economic Sustainability Plan. The Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Ambassador Miriam Katagum, stated this while reeling out the score sheet of the program in Abuja at a town hall meeting set up to reward beneficiaries who have displayed stellar performance under the scheme. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
Thank you. We can have our seats.
The Nigeria Economic Sustainability Plan was approved by President Muhammadu Buhari and the Federal Executive Council on June 24, 2020, as a 2.3 trillion naira stimulus plan to mitigate the effects of a deep recession while ensuring social stability and addressing long-standing economic vulnerabilities. Seated here at the Nikon Luxury Hotel Abuja are micro, small and medium enterprises who are beneficiaries of the Survival Fund from the nation's capital. The coordinator of the project nationwide speaks on its importance.
Some companies got as much as $500,000 every month for 90 days to pay their staff. You know, what that did for some of the companies was that it allowed them at least use some of their monies for something else. There are some MSMEs. Their total business is no more than 100,000. How are they going to fare? So what we now decided was that those ones, let's quickly give them 50,000 naira.
With 66 billion naira disbursed so far to over 1 million beneficiaries nationwide, 38% of which are women and 2% of which are people living with disabilities, the Survival Fund beneficiaries are grateful for the interventions. However, it hasn't all been a smooth ride. Nigeria's Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment calls out beneficiaries of the interventions who reneged on their agreement with the government, especially with the guaranteed offtake scheme.
19,928 beneficiaries failed to deliver their items after receiving the initial 30,000 naira, which was a sort of mobilization fee, thereby breaching their contract with the federal government. Osteco has directed the appropriate agencies to commence the process of recovering such monies and possibly prosecuting the defaulters, as they have blocked the chances of many MSMEs that would have benefited from the scheme.
Beneficiaries who made judicious use of the interventions are given certificates of excellence. As the 75 billion naira fund ends this year, this engagement holding simultaneously in Lagos, Kano, Bauchi, Enugu and Edo states assesses the progress made since the response was created as a cushion for the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on MSMEs in Nigeria. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, has reiterated its commitment to ensuring the growth of small and medium enterprises, SMEs, in the Niger Delta region through its microcredit scheme. NDDC Interim Administrator, Dr. Effiong Oka, announced that the Commission's microfinance bank will soon come on stream, urging the people, especially the youth, to key into the scheme in order to benefit from the bank.
At a time the attention of developing economies across the world is gradually tilting towards improving small-medium enterprises, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, has now taken steps to boost small businesses in the Niger Delta region. This visit by the South-South Zonal Headquarters of the Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture is to forge a mutually beneficial relationship with the NDDC to drive SMEs in the Niger Delta.
So we're bringing something on the table to enable you achieve what you have been doing for the country and our region. Sir, it is on this note that we have come to intimate you on some identified areas of partnership with the Commission, namely the MSME and SME development.
For the NDDC Interim Administrator, Dr. Effiong Oka, the critical role of SMEs in the development of nations informed the Commission's renewed effort for a robust partnership to improve small businesses in the Niger Delta.
So when it comes to SMEs, we don't play with SMEs because as it is today, as it stands today, a government cannot employ the labor that we need. SMEs are supposed to be the highest employer of labor. to take away the heat from the government.
The NDDC boss also speaks on the NDDC microfinance banking and calls on the Port Harcourt Chamber of Commerce and indigents of the Niger Delta to invest in the bank to boost economic activities in the region.
And it will be of much interest to you to invest as an institution, as an institution in the NDDC Microfinance Bank Limited, because our aim, we have shared and common objectives, and we can work together for the overall benefits of our members.
Following the pledge for partnership, the NDDC will now participate in the forthcoming Port Harcourt International Trade Fair in December, as well as other trade missions, the purpose of building capacity to boost economic activities and youth entrepreneurship.
And to matters of the environment, residents of flood-prone areas may have to take advantage of the 2022 flood outlook presented by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency in order to mitigate the effect of flooding this year. This warning is coming from the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management, Mr. Dia Umar Farouk, who was represented by a Deputy Director at a National Consultative Workshop on 2022 flood preparedness, mitigation and response in Abuja. The event was organized by the National Emergency Management Agency. And that's all from Abuja. It's back to you, Amarachi.
And it's on to Anne Wawodo for Business News.
Thanks a lot, Amarachi. Hello and welcome to Business News. More than 211,000 businesses have emerged as beneficiaries of the federal government's Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survival Fund scheme since it was instituted following the outbreak of COVID-19. And this was made known today by a representative of the Minister for Industry, Trade and Investment, Kamara Barakin, at a town hall meeting held with the beneficiaries of the Survival Fund in Lagos. He also mentioned that a total of 490,408 employees within the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory have received between 30,000 and 50,000 naira as 3 months' salaries.
This brings the total of beneficiaries in the Southwest region to 211,962 beneficiaries. This is not to say that there were no challenges that were encountered during the implementation. Some of these included the initial lack of trust in Nigeria, the initial lack of trust by the beneficiaries as it required obtaining people's details, especially their BVNs. The above is closely related to the initial reluctance by Nigerians on government's intervention programs, as they assumed that you needed to know someone to benefit from the scheme. There was a heavy reliance on the use of information technology for transparency and traceability, which also left the programs susceptible to infiltration by internet scammers. There were also instances of multiple applications using forged documents, fake beneficiaries, and attempts to bribe officials to bypass the process. The federal government at this point wishes to appreciate the effort, integrity, and commitment of MSMEs across the country who participated in the successful implementation of GOS, which required the supply of offtake items from the federal government. Despite the rising production costs, these businesses completed their contracts under the scheme.
The Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, NDIC, has issued a warning signal to the public who invest with illegal fund managers, saying that it has no cover to insure them. In a statement released today, the NDIC said this: with the recent increase in investment channels arising from innovative products, there's been an increase in illegal fund managers and who have been using different platforms soliciting funds and the public support to invest their funds with them, promising excessive returns on such investments. The NDIC also says that contrary to claims by some of these fund managers, the corporation does not insure investments with them, as it insures only the deposits of financial institutions licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the CBN, to accept deposits from the public. Stanbic IBTC Purchasing Managers Index for the month of July was registered at 53.2, up from 50.9 in the month of June, signaling an improvement in business conditions in Nigeria's private sector. The latest figure rose from June's 17-month low, but was still muted compared to the historical average. A return in growth in output and stronger inflow from new orders helped underpin a further improvement in operating conditions in the Nigerian private sector in the month of July. In turn, businesses increased their purchasing activities at the strongest rate for 5 months, while stocks increased sharply. Despite stronger inflows of new work, employment growth eased, and it was marginal amid elevated costs and subsequent pressure on profits. Purchases and output price inflation accelerated to 4-month highs in the month of July, with unfavorable exchange rate movements and higher fuel costs behind the latest round of inflation. Nevertheless, sentiments improved for the month of June, and firms reported hopes of securing greater business investment. Turning to prices, overall input price inflation was robust amid a quicker uptick in purchasers' cost, and staff costs also rose only marginally. The firms passed on a large part of the burden by lifting their selling prices at the quickest rate in 4 months. Also, firms remained optimistic of growth output. Others from foreign markets increased modestly in the month of July, with export growth now seen in 8 of the last 10 months. And British oil and gas giant BP has reported its biggest quarterly profit for 14 years, driven by higher energy bill oil prices. Latest report shows that energy firm underlying profits hit $8.45 billion between the month of April and June, up from $2.8 billion reported in the same period last year, with even higher than $6.2 billion profit it made in the first quarter. And this is coming as typical household energy bills have already been forecast to go higher in the United Kingdom this winter. BP's latest profit, which is the second highest for the second quarter in the firm's history, has prompted calls for the government to tax firms further to help families with rising bills. And right here in Nigeria at the stock market, it recorded the first positive close in the new month. It's looking green already as equities valued rebounded by 364 billion naira. That's after investors saw bargain opportunities in some downbeat value stocks. John Mekwa has the details.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the stock market reports. Well, the market recorded a bounce at the close of trading today, going from almost 1% drop yesterday to about 1.5% gain today. And that, you will agree with me, is enough reason for the bull to show up. And making up for yesterday, the All-Share Index is back on that 50,000 basis points level, and market cap has regained the 27 trillion naira. Hopefully, it will be sustained at least for a while. The activity charts may not so show that big gain, but value, which is the most important factor there, went from 2.27 billion naira yesterday to 2.86 billion naira. So some money going into the market there. And then the top trades is still dominated by financial services. Tier 1 lenders, FBN Holding and GTCO, they did a whole lot of work there. We see FBN Holding traded about 14.5 million, while GTCO did about 9.3 million. GTCO gained 35 kobo at the close of trading today. And somewhere in between, we see Multiverse. Multiverse traded about 9.5 million at the close of trading. Now, we close holding our breath in faith that this win will not be short-lived, but we'll know that in 24 hours. That's the stock market report. I'm John Mekwa. Back to you.
And that's business news for tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. The rest of the news continues now with Amarachi.
Thank Thanks a lot, Anne. China has condemned the visit by the U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan today, calling it a violation of the One China principle and the provisions of the 3 China-U.S. joint communiques, with severe impact on the political foundation of China-U.S. relations and infringing seriously on China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Simon Pusey has Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Reaction has been coming in across the world to the news that the US has killed the leader of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri, in a drone strike in Afghanistan. Footage taken on Sunday shows smoke rising from a building in Kabul's Sherpur district, where the strike was said to have killed al-Zawahiri. These pictures have since emerged of the compound where it was thought he was living in. Al-Zawahiri was an Egyptian doctor who was imprisoned in the 1980s for involvement in radical Islam before settling in Afghanistan, where he joined forces with Osama bin Laden. He was indicted in the US for his role in the August 1998 bombings of the US embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, which killed 224 people and wounded thousands of others. He and bin Laden jointly masterminded the attacks on the Twin Towers, and he became Al-Qaeda leader after the killing of bin Laden a decade later.
My fellow Americans, on Saturday, at my direction, the United States successfully concluded an airstrike in Kabul, Afghanistan, that killed the emir of Al-Qaeda, Ayman al-Zawahiri. Now, justice has been delivered, and this terrorist leader is no more. That no matter how long it takes, no matter where you hide, if you are a threat to our people, the United States will find you and take you out.
Taiwan is bracing for a potential show of force from China as the US House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, is set to arrive late on Tuesday. Her visit, which is not backed by the White House, would be the first by such a senior US official in decades. Pelosi, here meeting members of Malaysia's parliament in Kuala Lumpur earlier, is the 3rd highest ranking official in the US government and a long-time critic of Beijing.
We can see
China's envoy to the United Nations said that the visit would undermine China-US relations, describing it as provocative. Turkey says that the first ship carrying Ukrainian grain to world markets is expected to anchor at Istanbul on Tuesday night. At a briefing held at the JCC, General Özkan Altunbudak said the course of the ship was going as planned. On Monday, the first shipment of Ukrainian grain departed from the port of Odessa via the Sierra Leone-flagged ship Razoni, marking the first time in months that Kyiv has transported its goods to purchasing nations. BP has reported massive profits for the 3 months to June after oil and gas prices soared. The energy giant saw underlying profits hit $8.45 billion, more than triple the amount it made at the same time last year. The figure is the 2nd highest in the firm's history and takes its half-year profits to $14.6 billion. It comes on the day typical household energy bills have been forecast to hit more than £3,600 a year this winter. Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has said the payment of reparations to Africans for the damage caused by the slave trade centuries ago is long overdue. In a series of tweets, he reiterated a speech he made at a summit on reparations and racial healing that laid out the case for money to be paid to the continent. He said it is time for Africa, 20 million of whose sons and daughters had their freedoms curtailed and sold into slavery, also to receive reparations. Lawyers defending a US basketball star held in detention in Russia say their client hopes she'll be coming home soon. Brittany Griner was arrested at a Moscow airport in February when vape cartridges containing cannabis oil, which is illegal in Russia, were found in her luggage. A few months later, the sports star pleaded guilty to drug-related charges, although she said she didn't intend to break any rules. The US claims she's being wrongfully detained. And finally, Chilean authorities have started investigating a mysterious sinkhole about 25 meters in diameter that appeared over the weekend in a mining area in the north of the country. Chilean media showed aerial images of the sinkhole on land operated by a Canadian copper mine about 665 kilometers north of the capital Santiago. The National Service of Geology and Mining became aware of the sinkhole and have sent specialist personnel to the area. The statement added there is a distance of nearly 200 meters to the bottom and that no materials have been detected there. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon, and welcome to Sports News. Now, Nigeria's Chioma Onyekwere has won gold in women's discus event at the 2022 Commonwealth Games, throwing a season's best of 61.70 meters. Compatriot Obiageri Amechi also won bronze in the same event. Mary Osijo clinched bronze in the women's 87 kilograms weightlifting event, while Taiwo Laidi also won silver in women's 76 kg weightlifting event. After an impressive performance on day 5, Nigeria moved up to 10th on the medal table with 3 gold, 1 silver, and 4 bronze medals. And that's sports. I'm Victor Matthias. Thank you for watching. It's back to Amarachi with the wrap of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Victor. And the main news again. 5 more victims of the ill-fated Abuja-Kaduna bound train today gained their freedom after spending about 127 days in captivity. And that's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night, and have a happy night rest.